Start at the top of the agenda as we do. Did you guys get the chance to listen to the audio podcast book I sent out?
I did not get a chance to listen to it.
Okay. Well, maybe this will be of benefit, maybe it won't. So our perspective, mission, and path. Our mission is to see Christians owning and managing businesses through business acquisitions. That's where I would like to be at the end of this 13 weeks. That's where I see it going. Hopefully you guys will too. First method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at what men he has around him. What are you guys' thoughts on that quote?
I listened to the podcast, and I think at this point with this group, he's way ahead of us. You know, he's talking about KMPG. He's 10 years ahead of us. We're not going to be able to go into a law firm like that or an accounting firm. I think we had to slim it down a little bit to be more realistic at this point.
You mean for practical terms? Yeah, absolutely. You are not going to go into a law firm tomorrow. I totally agree with that. Yeah. Would you say that it's beneficial to listen to, though?
Yes, I think it's beneficial to listen to him, and we're not going to think as big as he thinks at this point. That's down the road.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And he also, Tim, I don't know if you noticed this, I think he partakes in a lot of activities that we're not going to partake in. For instance, 200-hour work weeks. Not literally. He literally worked when he was our age like 110, 120 hours a week. I would not advise any of us partake in that. Like, him as a person is not somebody I would want to emulate even in the slightest. And not all of his business practices are something that we're going to emulate. What he does set up for us, my viewpoint of Dan Pena, even of other people who are, horribly successful, but they're horrible people, is that they show us what's possible. Hopefully, like, some of it's, this is possible because they are not doing the right thing, because they work 120 hours a week. But other things, it's just possible because they understand how to do it. And I think a lot of people who are good people don't understand how to do what they're doing. And so I thought my mindset about it is that it opened me up to this whole idea of like going into a law firm, going into a bank, bringing in a professional crew. It's like, holy crap, that's something I can do. Like, no doubt about it. Like, there are good people, like we're talking about meeting with Matt Poulter. Well, if I have 5 Matt Poulters who believe in a business idea that I created, which all you have to do to create a business idea is think, well, you just brought in 200 years of experience to a bank and they're willing to give you a loan on it. Okay, the sky is the limit in a sense, and you don't have to be a bad person in order to follow some of the advice.
Right.
So I thought he really opened up the door to some bigger ideas there.
It's kind of like eating an elephant. Where do you start? Well, you got to start. It's one bite at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. So to jump into Dan Pena, right off the bat, where I wanted to start is kind of really harsh and judgmental sounding, but I wanted to call out a bad person for a bad person to make sure you guys didn't think I was wanting to follow his personality at all. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with is something that a lot of people throw around, and I don't completely disagree with it. Generally speaking, you should try to hang out with good people. I would say pretty much as possible Christians. That's not always the case, but then there's also evangelism, so it's not like hanging out with non-Christians is bad. But you do turn into the people you hang out with the most, so it's important. But Dan Pena is probably the boldest person, and he pushes it forward in such a way that he encourages you explicitly to do that 120-hour work week and not fulfill your obligations towards those who God has put you in covenant with. For example, for a good portion of Dan's life, he spent apart from his children. He had an obligation to train up his children in the way of the Lord, and he did not do that. And he would encourage all of us to do likewise. I would call that satanic. It's a satanic anti-covenantalism. Like, you are against covenants, the covenants that the Lord has put in your life. So I definitely don't encourage that. So that's my analysis of Dan. Shane Anderson gave me the wise advice weeks ago of be careful of the men you follow. And I think that's solid advice. Shane's a good guy to listen to. Nevertheless, one thing I really want to hone in on is that Dan Pena works very hard. And he is courageous. Like, that sounds too virtuous. He's just like really bold in risk taking, and he understands a lot about business. And so I think it should convict a lot of us of our inability to take risk, to jump out of the norm and do something a little bit wild. Even though, like, any of us who are like 24, 20, whatever we are here, we can see the pending death of so many different cultural norms, society things. We're not willing to, like, it's scary to take a risk nonetheless. And I would encourage all of us to become more like Dan Pena in that way, that we become more wild and more risk-taking. Would you guys all be on the same page on that? And then also, what do you think of a work ethic? Is that a matter of virtue and morality?
Yeah, I like what you're saying. The kind of take what's good that he has to say and weed out the bad, but really make sure that we weed out the bad.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Do you think, Josh, I know you specifically, and Ben, I don't know as much, but I'm sure you're likewise. You guys work really hard. That's one thing I appreciate about the young men at our church. It seems like you guys are working really hard. Do you take that as, and maybe you're not there yet, maybe you're not even old enough to think too much about this, but like work ethic, like if a man works only 40 hours a week, let's say, and he makes all of his bank, he's a regular energetic guy like me or you or whoever, but he only works 40 hours a week because that's all he needs to do to make 200 grand a year. So he's plenty rich. Okay. What are we thinking about that as far as godliness?
Well, yeah, I don't think that's I don't know. There's no, it would seem like you don't have a very good drive then. But yeah, I would say that at least in me, I want to work a lot more hours than that, because it says in the Bible, six days you shall labor and the seventh you shall rest. So, I mean, there's no really, I mean, it could be that you work 40 hours, but then you you spend extra time with your family and help teaching them stuff. You don't necessarily have to work on your business or something else for more than 40 hours. If you had a business and you only worked 40 hours on it, and that's all you really need to work on it. But then you teach your kids how to run business and stuff like that. With extra time, I guess that would still be work. So yeah, I think it'd be good to work. It's good. The more you work, it's good for a person. But
that's good. Tim?
He said it, my point to you guys is learn how to work 6 days a week, not 5, and learn how to work at least 48 to 60 hours a week, not 120, but that's where you step into the other side. You go into a different arena where you're making more money and then you can put it aside, whereas you're just spending money at 40 hours a week. Be a master at whatever you do. Try to perfect it to be the best at it. The top 10% people in any of their occupations, whoever they work for, never get fired.
Right.
It's security. Christians and non-Christians all search after the same thing. Bill Clinton, Obama, Biden, us, it's certainty. And we want to be certain with security. Money has a lot to do with that. Christ has everything to do with that. But by working can cover up your tracks. And you have to learn that behavior. You just don't start off working 60 hours a week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think where my mind first goes when talking about work ethic is exactly what I talked about last night. I thought last night's conversation was awesome at men's study. Is like, look at the world around you. Look at the need for movement in, civil government, but in business as well. There's so much work to be done. There's so many businesses that aren't run well. Christ's kingdom isn't here. And so to me, to be content with a retirement mentality when you still have an extra 20 hours a week to give because you're not waking up early at all, you're not going to bed late, you're not thinking about it on your off time, instead you're playing video games, watching movies, stuff like that. Like, you don't take the kingdom of God seriously enough, because God has a lot to say about this world before it's over. And you are able to be part of that action. And so be part of it. That's good. So, yeah, Dan Pena is like 40 steps ahead of us, like Tim said earlier. I think he really lays out a vision for maybe way down the road, or maybe never at all, but it is still, there's some principles there I think you can gather. So I'm going to go through kind of a broader outlook of the chapter. Again, you're not going to take everything that he says too seriously, but he has a lot of principles there. So I put up at the top a little diagram of a equity example. The do-it-yourself is a small business mentality that only works for small businesses. You can't be everything, and you shouldn't want to be everything. And I think Napoleon Hill predicted correctly that, he did in 1937, that employers would someday need to share equity with their employees in order to sufficiently incentivize them. That means you can't just hire a 9-to-5 guy and expect him to give 100%. They're not going to do it for that, because now in today's age, it requires a lot more than that in order to get them to give that much effort. And part of the reason for this is just simply, in a sense, the spread of Christianity and the value to people's life sets brought through different things. Everything's available to us. Anybody can start a business. Anybody can research an issue. So to think that you can hire an employee, a 9-to-5 employee, expect them to give 120% when they're doing like great tasks for you, $1 million tasks or whatever, it's kind of hard to incentivize them with just a salary. And that's I think that's a dying thing. Not for all employees. There are always going to be employees that need to trade time for money. But anybody who's going to be at a higher level than, a 20-year-old worker, they're going to require more. They're going to want to invest into their future, not just spend time making money.
I think you're right. I think you're right on that. And I'm really seeing it now, even with like our business that we're running, Mid-North. We just now started implementing bonuses when finishing apartments and stuff for the crew leads, and we just started it as of like 2 weeks ago or something. But I can already see that it's going to be huge, because they're getting an hourly wage, but then on top of that, every apartment unit that they finish or building, or unit and building, it's like bonuses, and that's huge for people, incentives like that.
And when you start that, Ben and Josh, make sure you also reiterate monthly, if not bi-weekly, why they're getting a bonus. Because what will happen, I'm experiencing it last night, they take bonuses for granted after a while, and they think it's just their pay, and they forget what the bonus is even for. I used to train reps, and they would come, and they're not making enough money, and I'm like, well, you're not selling anything. You got to sell stuff to make stuff. And so my point is, you are exactly right, I think, Ben, in the dynamics have changed. $15 an hour is not going to cut it. You need to give them part ownership. That's why the next franchise that I want to do is have owner operators, and then they what you do is what you get. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it requires generosity on you guys' parts to give out more equity or more money to your employees like you do. It's awesome. So to start, well, you guys listened to the chapter, some of you did, so this may not understand what I'm talking about, but Dan advises that a board of directors is where one should start prior to creating or incorporating a business acquisitions business. Emphasize business acquisitions business. His purpose is not to teach us how to own a business. It is to learn how to buy multiple businesses at like a higher level. And so he's not where we're at, like Tim said. Where I see this, so I still would say that you should start with advisory, though. Like the first thing I did when I thought about buying a business is I went to Tim Galezie. Then now I started this thing, but like it always requires that reaching out, networking with people who are better than you. And he actually gets into it in the next chapter. People who are better than you, when you partner with them, when you push yourself to be around them, force you to be a better person. And so that's important. I think we all kind of understand that, though. The main thing that a board of directors, a group of people like that, is going to bring is prestige. They're going to bring it, especially for the banker's sake. So when you walk into a bank, it looks really good to be able to say, "Hey, here's my board of directors. We have 120 years of experience in blank industry." Sounds really good to a banker. This means for that 120 years, it means that you're going to have board of directors will primarily be retired CEOs and other successful top businessmen. Retired CEOs and top executives will likely enjoy someone showing interest in them, asking them for their advice, and they will likely not want to interfere with the small business items. I'm thinking somebody about 10 years older than you, Tim, like somebody who's been there, done that, had success. They're going to be of the type of mentality that they're excited to be in part of what young men are doing, but they're not going to want to run the whole thing and run you over. I think that would be the type of board of director I'd look for. Let's see. Now, one thing I want to make note of is that right now we are watching what is called the largest transfer of wealth in human history. And I think it's been happening for probably 10, 20 years. It's been going for a while. I think it's still happening. And the reason I say that is if you look up on a business for sale site, type in the word retirement, and you will find like 40 businesses in like the state of Iowa alone that are all selling out for the sake of downsizing, but usually it just explicitly says for retirement. That is a great thing to us. The boomer generation is slowly passing away, and they have owned all of the nicest stuff for a bit now, and they are ready to sell out. That is our opportunity to jump in there and buy their businesses. So that's a huge encouragement to me. I think it should be to you too. I'm going to jump over the group comments section to the next one. Before you find a board of directors, Dan says you need to have a great business idea or a business idea. You can't really present anything without that. That's what I did to you all on Jesse Vandermolen's porch, as I presented to you a business idea. Present this to your prospective directors. He recommends LinkedIn. Again, I brought this up last week. LinkedIn is a place quickly find people of all sorts, of all levels. To continue on in that direction, the main person you want to find is kind of your heavyweight champion. That guy is going to be your chairman in the director board. He's going to be the one having the most experience and expertise, way above everybody else. And one thing that I will say, going back to surrounding yourself with better people than you, is every single director, every single advisor you have should be more experienced and more successful than you. That goes without saying, but it's absolutely the case. People like Tim, who brings Matt Poulter to me, or anybody like that, they're going to bring you contacts, knowledge, especially the contacts, networking. They might know the best accountants for the job. They might know the best way to do things. So again, this is just the idea of the wisdom in finding advisors to surround yourself with. Yeah, I think we've pretty much covered all the information in this chapter. Does anybody have last comments about anything here? Good.
One thing for all of you guys, if we get a group of 10 guys, say they're all 25, 26 years old, Ben, Josh, your buddies and all that, and you got a group of guys that want to be entrepreneurs. When we get a Matt Poulter and get some of his friends and some other guys I know, they may have opportunity right there to where they can plug you guys in to where you can run this business and that business. And so I just want to encourage you that, because you guys are so young, starting out thinking like this, who knows where you're going to be 5 years from now. But this is huge in order to get to where you want to go. Now, if you don't know where you want to go, you need to start figuring that out by having goals. It's like we're going to go on vacation, and we do more preparing for vacation than we do for our life. Ask 5 people today, or 3 or 2, what are your 2 goals? Ask them and say, what do you have it written down? And everybody's going to say no. They don't even know where they're going, but they know where they're going on vacation. Well, why don't you prepare at least as much as you would when you go on vacation? Make sense?
Yeah, that goes back to working hard.
Right. Well, Josh said it, or Ben, about 6 days a week. Most Christians don't work 6 days a week. They're off on Friday and they're going to go home and work on their house on Saturday. But if they worked 6 days a week, mastered their trade, they could hire 10 Mexicans to come in and do all their work all week long and not have to rake the yard or mow the yard or paint the house. They'll have other people doing it while they're spending their time making way more money. I had a surgeon who fell off a ladder cleaning his gutters out. An orthopedic surgeon had to quit work because he was cleaning his gutters out. Why wouldn't he hire somebody to do that job and do another surgery? So that's just the thinking there on the 6 days a week.
Tim you mentioned to me that we're looking at the second week of August for Matt Poulter currently. Is that still true?
Yeah, he's back that week. And what probably we should do is just us 4 meet with him. We're not going to be able to bring him in on Saturday. His schedule doesn't permit it. So to get it going is initially, let's just meet with him and he can kind of present to us what he's doing, where he's at. And the hope is that he has some interest in our group.
Yep. Tim, I think Josh and Ben probably have the same situation. Make sure you don't plan anything on a Saturday. I am literally out every Saturday, and it's stuff I have to be at, very important stuff. So I just want to make that mention. Saturdays in August are just a beast. Weddings, and I'm in some of them. So I know Josh is in.
Yeah.
Nance is getting married too. So
Yep.
No, Saturday's the problem. That's yeah. He can't meet on Saturday as well.
awesome. Well, I have to cut everybody off in honor of Josh and Ben's work schedule, mine as well. So I thank you guys for joining us today. I think I still think this group has potential, even though we're small, like Ben pointed out. This is by design, and I think it's going to go well. Yeah, I hope you guys keep thinking about these things. If you have ideas to bring to this group, hey, this is where I see it going. If you have something better to do that I'm not doing as well as I could, please bring that up. I appreciate commentary. So God bless you guys. I hope you have a good week.
You too.
Yep.
I sent you something, Ben, and look at it. It's about mentors and webinars. So check it out. It's free.
Okay. All right. See you guys.
Take care.